Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for tuning into my weekly guitar blog. It's October 28th, 2012, and this week we're going to discuss seventh quality chords and their construction. Now, this question was sent in from Mick. He's out in Croxley, England, and he wrote in saying, my question is about seventh chords. A C minor seventh chord has the first, third, fifth, and seventh of a C minor scale, C, E flat, G, B flat. C major seventh chord has the first, third, fifth, and seventh of a C major scale, which would be C, E, G, and B. What I don't understand is why a C seventh chord has C, E, G, and B flat, which is a C major chord with a minor seventh, a B flat added. From Mick in Croxley, England. Well, thanks for writing in, Mick. Chord qualities can often be confusing in the early days of exploring how they relate to both the guitar and to various other scale and chord tones. But as theory is being studied and practiced, and as we learn more songs, most chords have become better technically, and their theory slowly starts making more and more sense to us. When I teach chord theory, I like to explain it by way of both the harmonized scale, so that students know where the chords originate from, and then move on to discussions regarding the formulas used to create chords so that students can construct any chord they need at any time. So let's begin with how chords originate in a key by discussing some theory on harmonized scales.
To begin our explanation of where the dominant seventh chord comes from, we're going to start with just a plain old C major scale. And you can see here what I've done is I've just taken the notes from a C root up to the C octave. We spelt out the tones, giving us our standard tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, the basic major scale formula, and we've arrived at a C major scale. So this is the starting point. So you're starting with your scale in a particular key. Let's move on next to the world of triad chord construction. Now what we've done is we've gone to the next level from having a single tone scale to moving up to a harmonized scale into our first set of chord types, which is called triad. And they are just simply a three-note chord, and they're developed by taking every second note of the scale. You can see there's a C here, and then there's an E, and then there's a G. And these three tones are stacked, and they create a harmony off of our first step of a C major chord. So there's our first step chord. As we travel continuously through the key, stacking in third intervals, we wind up with a second degree, that's a D minor. Third degree in the scale is E minor. The fourth is an F major. The fifth is a G major. The sixth is A minor. And the seventh is B diminished, taking us back up to our octave again. So we wind up with a series of different quality chords across every step of the entire scale. The qualities of the chords will never change, only the notes themselves will change as you move through different key signatures. So the movement of the harmony will carry on major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. It will always remain like that as we go through all of the other major keys. Now, this is where it gets interesting into the world of sevenths. We're going to move from triads, and we're going to head to the world of seventh chord harmony next. So here we are in the world of seventh chord harmony. You can see it's very similar to the harmony that we were working from in the triad world. The only thing that has changed is we've gone a step further, and we've added the final note of our scale on the top. Before we only had root, third, and fifth, but now we have the seventh as well. When that happens, the qualities change throughout the whole set of chords that we work with. The first chord is a major seventh now. The second one is a minor seventh, and so is the third. The fourth is a major seventh. And this is where we come across the G dominant seventh here off of our fifth step. And the remaining chords are, of course, minor 7 off the sixth step, and then minor 7, flat 5, or half diminished off the seventh step and back to the octave. But the chord that we're most concerned about, obviously, is that fifth chord, the dominant seventh chord. Now, when you analyze a scale like this and you stack the tones on top of one another to create the harmony, every one of your major scales will wind up giving you a seventh quality chord built off of that fifth degree. So the next thing I'd like to do is head to the guitar and explain the difference between not only understanding how the scale develops your chord harmony, but how to look at a chord on its own and justify the chord construction principles for a specific chord. In our case, of course, that will be the dominant seventh chord. So let's head to the guitar next.
Now, when it comes to chord construction formulas, it's very important to understand that the chord construction formula is one which directly affects the tones of the major scale. So if a formula calls for a minor seventh, that would be a minor seventh related directly to the major scale. Now, granted, that tone may perhaps exist in some versions of minor scales. We tend not to really make any corresponding analysis over toward any minor scales. Our formulas are exclusive to the tones of major scale itself. So if we were to perhaps begin with, say, a C major seventh chord, those tones are the root, the major third, the fifth, and the major seventh, taken from the C major scale, which are C, E, G, and B. However, if we were interested in a C minor seventh chord, then we would proceed along by dropping the tones necessary from the C minor 7 chord formula to achieve that minor 7 chord type from the existing tones found once again from the C major scale. Now, the formula for a C minor 7th chord happens to be root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, and minor 7th, giving us the specific tones in this case of C, E flat, G, and B flat. Now, if we were interested in the creation of a C dominant 7th chord, then once again we would be applying the formula which creates a C dominant 7th chord type directly from the tones of a C major scale. And since the formula for constructing dominant 7th chords happens to be root, major 3rd, perfect 5th, and minor 7, our resulting tones for building a C dominant 7th chord would end up being C, E, G, and B flat. So as you can tell, the chord construction formulas are the ticket to gaining all of the specific tones required for the construction of any chord, so long as you know all of the formulas for creating all the different chords. But in our previous look at theory of how the harmony of chords fits into our keys, it helps us with knowing where a chord is very likely coming from in a song that we might be learning, or how to actually use that chord in a key center for a song that we happen to be composing. When we know how chords originate from a key signature and how that key's corresponding scale plays a role in the process, we are completely tuned into the relationships of the chord to our key center. And when we combine that knowledge with chord construction formulas so that we're able to construct any chord we would like at any given time, we end up having a very solid understanding of how chords are used and where they come from. Now, I should mention that the dominant 7th has a lot of flexibility since it can be applied in several other ways through procedures such as secondary dominance and even tritone substitutions. So keep studying those dominant 7th chords and how they can be applied, because they offer us a lot of very cool musical ideas from a compositional standpoint. Anyway, once again, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.